This is the first chapter, and in the first chapter we are going to see some basic concepts that we will continue to use through this course and even in AB2. Now, one thing before we start, I want to establish that sometimes you will see easy concept sign on some of the slides. These slides are easy to read and pretty straightforward, that if you read them yourself, you will not have any problem in understanding them. Very often in these videos, I'm going to skip these slides. However, if you have any question regarding them, please do send me or ask in the forum about these concepts. However, for this first video, I'm going to go through some of these concepts. We have the anatomy. Anatomy is the scientific study of body structures and how they relate to each other. And then we have physiology, is the study of the chemistry and physics of structures of the body and how these structures are working together to support the functions of life. Anatomy would deal with description. It will be describing structures, like for example the location of the heart is anatomy, shape of bones is anatomy, arrangement of organs in a space is also anatomy. So all of these are topics that anatomy would deal with. However, for physiology, it will be more about how these structures work. For example, why the heart is in its position. How does this position serves the heart function? So this is physiology. How the shape of the bones can help in their function, and so on. So technically, anything in life, you can think of it in these terms, in terms of anatomy and physiology. For example, the table, if you have a table, you can describe the table that it has two legs, for example, and there is a flat surface. So this is anatomy. However, if you can say that I use the table for writing, that will be physiology. So anatomy is describing these structures, what they are made of, how do they look like, where physiology is describing how do they work. Understanding that will lead us to the principle of complementarity, that although anatomy and physiology are dealing with different topics, but both go side by side to help us understand the human body. For example, here we have these two hands and we have the fingers. I can say that the hands are a little bit long and then there are fingers that they are separated from each other. Because if they are separated, which is anatomy, they can hold the sticks. So this player can do the drums. Anatomy was telling me that the fingers are separated. However, their physiology is that they are holding the stick. If they are not separated, they will not be able to hold the stick and they will be useless for playing the drums. However, if they are fused together, they will be good for swimming, right? So in this case, again, the anatomy is describing the physiology. Having different fingers, separated fingers, would help us to grasp things, to hold them, to catch them, whereas having fused fingers, like in ducks for example, it will help them to swim. So that's when the anatomy is explaining the physiology. However, the physiology also can help us understand the anatomy. For example, we understand that we need to pump the blood into different parts of the body. And we understand that we have two types of bloods. We have oxygenated and we have non-oxygenated blood. And this has to go through the same pump. So they must not be mixed. In these terms, we have 4 chambers in the heart in order not to mix oxygenated and non-oxygenated blood. So here, the physiology explained the anatomy and so on. Through this course, we will see so many examples about the principle of complementarity. And technically, each organ we are going to learn, each structure we are going to understand, we can see it through this principle, the principle of complementarity. Let's try to understand how the human body is organized. And to understand this, we will use this page. So we can think of the human body that it's made of smaller or small structures, and these small structures always going to come together to form large or larger structures. So the tiniest structures we have are the atoms. Atoms are the building blocks of life. They cannot be broken down. Examples of atoms, we have oxygen, sodium, carbon, hydrogen, etc. We have plenty of examples of atoms. These atoms can group together and they will form the molecules. These two or more atoms come together. Example, we have like water, we have carbon dioxide, we have oxygen itself as a molecule. Now, group of molecules can come together and they will form organelle. These are large chemical structures. However, now they have a function. Example, we have in our cells, we have the mitochondria. This is an organelle responsible for producing energy. We have Golgi apparatus. This is another organelle that is responsible for shipping and so on. Now, group of organelles will come together and they will form cells. And cells are the basic unit of life. This is the smallest or the tiniest structure that is alive, meaning that it can grow, it can produce energy and consume energy, of course. It can communicate and so on. There are different characteristics into consideration of life. However, this group of cells, they can come together and they will form tissues. Tissues are group of similar cells. We have muscle tissue, we have fat tissue, we have nervous tissue. This group of tissues, different group of tissues, can come together and also form organs. So organs are group of tissues. These could be 2 or more tissues, maybe 3, 4, 5, depends. Now organs, they perform certain or defined function. Some of the organs perform more than one function. For example, stomach is to break down food, heart to pump blood, lungs to bring air or to help in exchange oxygen and CO2, and so on. We have so many examples of organs. However, these organs together, they will form organ system. An organ system is a group of organs that are dealing with similar overall function. Like for example, we have the stomach, the small intestine, small and large intestine. We have, along with them, we have, for example, the mouth. We have the esophagus. All of these organs are dealing with food, so we call them digestive system. Similarly, we have the lungs, we have the nose, we have the trachea. All of these organs are dealing with air, so we call them respiratory system, and so on. We have 11 different organ systems in a human body. We will see them in a bit. Collectively, these are forming the organism. In our course, that's the human body. So collectively, these what we call them levels of organization. Group of atoms will form molecules, group of molecules will form organelles, group of organelles will form cells, group of cells will form tissues, group of tissues will form organs, group of organs will form organ systems, and the group of organ systems will form the organism. So here are the organ systems. You need to know them, and you need to know the general function of each one of these systems. Through this course, we are going to study several of them, and through AB2, we will study the rest. But at least for now, you need to know the general organ system and the general function of these organ systems. Another thing that we can go over very quickly, what is called the functional requirement of life. To maintain life, we need organization, metabolism, responsiveness, movement, development, growth, and reproduction. Each one of these characteristics is required to maintain life. I will stop here, and in the second video, we will go over homeostasis.